Okay, fam, welcome back. So today we're going to be going over LTCN BCHG and the rest of the trust. So with that being said, let's get it. All right, so there's a few things I want to go over first before we go over that. Okay, the first one is Bitcoin. So I've been seeing some comments about, oh, well, it pumped, but now it dumped. I mean, guys, look, that's going to happen, okay? Some of these moves that we've seen, like even yesterday on the trust, some of the moves that you guys were seeing were like 30, 40, 50% moves. These are huge moves, okay? The S&P returns 10% on average, 10 to 12%, somewhere in there on a yearly basis, okay? You're literally getting like 4 or 5 years worth of gains in one day, okay? These things are not going to do 50% day after day after day, just for eons. Okay, there's going to need to be a cooling off period in between. So we saw some absolutely stupid monster moves yesterday. Okay, and it wasn't just the trust, like it was everything. Okay, Coinbase was going up stupidly. It was up like 30 something percent. MicroStrategy's been up like absolutely bonkers last few weeks. The miners went up 20, 30, 40% yesterday. I mean, they're going to have a little bit of a cooling off period. It's not going to go straight up forever. Okay, you guys got to understand that these things will play out over time. Now, here's what I'll say about Bitcoin. Okay, so Bitcoin, and I wanted to touch on this too, by the way. So, like I told you guys before, okay, Bitcoin goes up, like let's say 5, 10% in a day. Okay, whatever. It's going to do that naturally. What I'm kind of thinking here is, look, we're looking at these on weekly candles. Okay, not all of these candles within these particular weeks are going to be green. Not all of them are going to be green, and the same is true for the rest of the things that we look at. As you guys know, we look at the weekly candles. Okay, a week encompasses 5 trading days. Okay, Monday through Friday, 5 days. So and again, this would take too long. I'm not going to do this because it takes too much time. But if we were to go through every single position on a weekly and a daily basis, you would see that even if the candle on the weekly time frame is green, it's possible that 3 out of those 5 days were green and 2 out of those 5 days were red, right? So that's inevitably going to happen. Even on green weeks, there can be red days. Just understand this, all right? And obviously, the inverse is true. On red weeks, there can be green days, and on green weeks, there can be red days. In this particular case, we're talking about the green days, okay? But you guys can see here, I mean, Bitcoin has basically been green for days on end at this point. To have a slight pullback here, once in a while before ripping eventually again, is normal and even healthy, I would say. It doesn't mean it's not going to move higher. You guys got to be realistic about this, okay? It's not going to go from $0 to $500 like in LTCN's case in a single day. If that happened, I would be terrified. I would be worried because I'd be like, okay, that's not normal. Is that supposed to happen? Is it even real? Is it an early sign of hyperinflation? Should I be worried? There's a lot of questions I'd be having about that, okay? Now, if LTCN went from $0 to $500 in, say, 3 or 4 or 5 months, I wouldn't really care. I'd be like, all right, cool. It went up to the moon, or whatever it is that we have. Like a Filecoin went up. If Filecoin went from $4 to $200 in a day, we take profit, but we'd be absolutely terrified because that's not supposed to be happening. Okay. But if it goes that high within, say, a month or 2 or 3 months, whatever, not a big deal. I don't really see any reason to be concerned. So it's completely normal to get pullbacks on the way up. That's what I'm saying here. So the thing I want to point out again is I am expecting at least 4 green weeks here before any sizable red weekly candle. And I'm not counting this candle at this structure level here. You see this one with this long wick up here to the upside. I'm not counting that candle because that was not a breakout candle. I'm counting this one right here, okay, and this one. So basically what I'm saying is I think Bitcoin likely is going to go up for another basically another 2 weeks and 5 days before any weekly red candles occur. Okay, that's what I'm saying. All right, so the other thing I want to talk about, and again, we've already gone over in the previous video that we did on Bitcoin. If you haven't seen that, go check it out. Why the 4 weeks is relevant around this time. We've already gone over that. But the part of the other reason why the markets may be a little bit hesitant today, not just because it had such a massive day yesterday. We have CPI on the horizon, okay? look, as much as I hate to say it, the market's still like, oh god, CPI, inflation, guys, we're all gonna have a recession, guys. I'm pretty confident there's not gonna be a recession. Okay, especially now that Trump's in office. I mean, he's gonna kill that immediately. I'm pretty confident about that. So, but I mean, yeah, the government they didn't want a recession, according to the way I understand it. So I've been watching the data very carefully, and it would appear that the soft landing is still actually intact, and it's likely going to happen. So a lot of people think there's going to be a resurgence of inflation. You're not seeing it here, but just understand that because of the fact that there's two sides to the coin here. Okay, on the one side, there is if the Fed over tightens and they kill inflation, they could cause a recession. Okay, and that's bad news. Okay, but the other side is if they don't tighten enough, and when they start to cut, inflation resurges, that could cause hyperinflation, which means the Fed would eventually have to hike rates again to tighten the economy again to cool inflation again, which is also bad news. Okay. What I'm telling you guys is I think the Fed's going to be able to cut and inflation's going to stay low, and we're not going to have a resurgence of inflation, and the bond market is wrong because bond yields have been moonshotting basically, and I have seen this. I think it's basically temporary, is what I'm saying, because usually when the bond markets go up, that signals a warning sign about inflation in the economy. I think that's a false positive. Okay, and part of the reason why I'm saying this is because, again, you guys got to understand the nature of inflation. Okay, when you're not producing energy in the country that is experiencing the inflation, it causes inflation because the supply is low and the demand is high. When you have less of something in existence and the same or higher levels of demand, like with Bitcoin, it creates higher prices. In this case, higher inflation. Okay. And the wars overseas, when those end, a lot of the products that they would sell around the world, those will become more abundant and available, which means higher demand, higher demand, higher supply, which means lower inflation. Okay. And when people that are illegal that are in this country are deported out of this country, that means that you will have less people consuming the same amount of goods and services, which also kills inflation. Okay. So I just wanted to paint that picture for you guys so you understand truly from a 10,000 foot view what exactly I'm trying to get at here. So the CPI comes out tomorrow. Am I worried about it? No. Markets are a little on edge here. You can see they think the headline's going to come up. I'm not so sure about that one. Even if it does come up, I mean, look, it's pretty much around 2%. Who cares? It goes from 2.4 to 2.6. Big whoop. The Fed's target rate is between 2 to 2.5% anyways. They haven't said it, but it is essentially between 2 to 2.5, okay? So I don't think they really care too much at this point. And besides, if the Fed was truly worried about it, if they really were worried about it, if the Fed was worried about it, they would not have cut rates in September and still be cutting like I told you guys they were going to do. And Trump would not be coming out and saying, oh, I'm going to do tax cuts and we're going to drop rates to the floor, guys, like he's been saying, because that's what he said. Do you think if Powell or Trump was worried about inflation, they would be saying those things and doing those things? Probably not. So I have good reason, based on the data, to believe there's not going to be a resurgence of inflation. All right, so enough about that. Okay, so we're getting into the trust now. So you got 13 to, well, basically anywhere in this channel, really, I guess you could say is actually a buy area. So maybe 12 all the way up to 17. Then 25 to 27, of course, 54. So the maximum measure move here, 350% gain. And I'll touch, and again, I know a lot of you guys have been asking, like, oh, well, when are these going to pop off? When are they actually going to do something? I'll get to that at the end of this, okay? So BCHG, again, you get the inverse head and shoulders here. It does usually make sense for this thing to come back and bounce, and then eventually pop off to the moon, because again, this used to be a resistance. It could technically be treated as a flip zone. When you're being held down below here and you pop out of it, theoretically you want to retest and then take off to the moon, right? But the indicators down here tell me likely this is more bullish than bearish. We are above the EMAs. That's all good. So I would just say anywhere probably between this white line to the EMA's good buy zone. So 625 to 780, 1030 to 24 is going to be your targets. And again, none of this is financial advice. If you guys think you have a better zone in mind to buy in, you know, by all means do so. Do what you think is best for your own money. So 282% gain here. HZEN, so this one still does look like it wants to break out of the channel. Again, we don't have a higher high yet here, but it is slowly starting to move off of this support to the upside. So that's very bullish. Okay. So as of right now, the buy zone still 340 to about, I'd say about 440. So $7 potentially all the way up to roughly about 1250. And again, I'm giving you guys these higher prices because I think likely these trusts are going to start moving soon. I'll get to that at the end of the video. So 263. ETCG, this thing has lifted off. It's retesting the EMAs. So EMAs right now sit between 915 to 1050. If I was going to be looking to buy, that's where I would buy. Of course, this thing did break out of the bearish descending triangle, which is a bearish pattern and a downtrend, which is what we saw here. But again, I told you guys likely that wasn't going to happen because the indicators are bullish. And what do you know, right? So targets up here, 1340 to 20. And again, I'm not saying that to brag, y'all. I'm just telling you guys, like, you know, we called it before it actually took place, and now it's taking place. So there it is. So 130% move, ETH. So yeah, it looks like we made a gap to fill the gap. That's pretty weird, but okay, whatever. So there's a gap there. It got filled. So 1830 is that line down there. I mean, we're in the resistance zone here, but we're above the EMAs. So I would say because the price is above the EMAs, but it's not above the zone yet, you could still treat this zone as support, even though I'm not actually going to change it yet. So 2330 to 2830. Cup and handle target 4750 here. So that move would be about 106% gain. GBAT. Nice day on GBAT, FILG. It looks like Solana, G-Link, GXLM. Nice green there. A little bit on LTCN. So GBAT still support, $4.50 to $5, and then you got $8 to 33. And I know people are going to be like, oh, well, the trusts have gone nowhere for months, guys. It's 626% gain. Oh, it's going nowhere. It's doing nothing. It's doing absolutely nothing. Well, you know, people that have been buying the miners, the Bitcoin miners forever at the lows that they're at, or Bitcoin or some of these altcoins that are starting to pop off, they were saying the exact same thing when those were not, well, not the ones that were buying, but, well, maybe some of the people that were buying were saying that, but some of these people that don't really understand the space and understand patience and investing and understand how this works, we're probably buying at those levels and saying like, oh, well, it's dead, it's not going anywhere. And then all of a sudden you get these huge moves and they think they're all geniuses and, oh my God, it's going up, guys, it's going up. I mean, it's the same old story, guys. This markets are literally designed to do that. They're designed to move wealth from the hands of the patient to the hands of the impatient. Right? I think Warren Buffett said it best. Again, that's my take on it. But he says that the stock market is a device designed, and again, this is not verbatim, to transfer money from the hands of the patient to the impatient. Okay. All right. So FILG still below the EMAs, but above support. So 35 to 42 is what I'm looking at for buy zone. 400 as the all-time high. 962% gain. Like I said, everybody's going to say that something's dead and garbage until it's not. And then the hype train starts and all of a sudden everybody's talking about it. That's usually how it works in crypto. So, yeah, this is a tough one. I would say probably anywhere between 970 to probably about 1450 could be considered a buy zone. Maybe even as low here as 680 because, again, we're not above the zone yet to flip it. We're also still below the EMAs. So 80 is the all-time highs up there. So you're looking at roughly about, if you get that pullback, which I don't know if you're going to get it or not, about 1,150% gain. G-Link, so we're above the zone, have not got a weekly confirmation yet, but we did get a daily one. So I guess I'll say this is support as of right now. So 38 to 45 and then 65 to roughly about 225. It's going to be those targets up there. So about 465% gain. GSOL still moving up. Again, that's not surprising. Whether it just goes straight through all of these zones or not, we'll just have to wait and see on that. It's hard to say. Look, When it comes to crypto or any of the markets, I can tell you guys this much is true, okay? When the markets go up, they take the stairs on the way up and they take the elevator on the way down, okay? If you guys had been investing and watching the markets from the start of this year until August and September of this year when we had that crazy flash crash, you would know exactly what I'm talking about here, okay? I don't think I really need to say more about this. Um, yeah, because that crash that we had, that was insane. All right, so support down here is 73 to 82. Targets could be anywhere. I'll just say anywhere from 170 to the highs at roughly about 580. I don't know that it actually comes back down to that support because that dump was pretty ferocious. Usually, when you get an aggressive dump like that, it does usually V-shape pretty quick. So 420% gain here. Okay, GXLM. I'm sure some stellar lumens holders out there is going to be quite happy today. So let me move this line out here. So yeah, we haven't gotten a weekly close above this one yet. We did get a daily close above it, but again, I would want to see a follow-up candle. That's the breakout candle. I'd want to see a confirmation on the daily to actually confirm this is going to hold this level of support. So for right now, I'm just going to go ahead and say that 1430 to 24 is going to be that support zone there. 54 to as high as 97, which I believe is the previous all-time highs. So about a 550% gain here. Yeah, looks like that was the previous all-time high. Okay, so Meta, again, I'm going to take a look at the daily here. It does look like we got above the EMAs and the white line, but again, I want to see a confirmation follow-up green candle to confirm this is actually going to go higher. So as of right now, the white line, and again, this is still below the EMAs on the weekly. The white line as of right now is going to be support. So $10, and then you got 17 to 70 at the all-time highs as targets. So measured move here, about 650% gain. Zcash, still within that range we talked about forever now. Eventually it will break out of here. It's just we're probably going to need to see an alt season first. So $3 to $6, and then roughly about 8 to 10 and a quarter for the targets there. Okay, so 220% gain here. All right, so there's a couple of things I want to say. Okay, if you guys want early access to the content, you can sign up for a channel membership by clicking the join button below the video that you guys watch. Okay, it should say join on it. It's like a little circular button. I don't know how to explain it. Maybe at some point I'll pull a video up here and show you guys if you really can't figure it out. It's $25 a month. You got to decide if it's worth it for you or not. These crypto markets move extremely fast, so it may be beneficial to have it at least until the end of the bull market. Again, it's completely optional. You guys don't have to do it if you don't want to. If you want to, you can. If you don't want it at some point, you can always cancel it if you don't want it. Okay. So that's number one. Number two, here's what I want to say about the Grayscale Trust not popping off immediately when everybody wants it to. Look, I've told you guys before that even if the trusts themselves, like let's say LTCN does not have perfect correlation with Litecoin, like individual trusts with individual underlying tokens does not have perfect correlation, likely if that's not the case, we likely will see some sense of correlation between the Bitcoin dominance and the altcoin season reflected in the price of these trusts. Okay. So Bitcoin dominance, and again, I can't say this with certainty. Okay, maybe only what is it called? GBTC goes up with Bitcoin, maybe Litecoin, or maybe LTCN and BCHG does not go up with Bitcoin like it did last cycle. Maybe it goes up instead when Litecoin and Bitcoin Cash go up. I don't know. Okay, maybe that doesn't even happen. Maybe these things just have a mind of their own and they choose to move when they move. Okay. But I would say that for the vast majority of these trusts, they are going to move when the Bitcoin dominance drops off a cliff because Bitcoin is topped out at some point in 2, 3, 4 months or whatever it is going to be from now. I'll get to that in a second, but likely when Bitcoin dominance has fallen off a cliff, it becomes blatantly obvious we're in an alt season, and I will let you guys know when I think that is. Okay, I don't think we're in an alt season yet. I think all coins are getting warmed up, but we're not quite there yet. Okay. But the Bitcoin dominance will drop off a cliff, and then I could be wrong about this. Okay, I could be wrong about this, but I'm thinking everything under BCHG here, likely going to pop off with the alt season. Okay. It's possible that even LTCN and BCHG will also pop off with the alt season. And if Trump gets his way with the Fed and gets them to drop rates to zero, well, you got basically easy money at that point, baby. So, I mean, anything goes in these markets when, the borrowing cost of money is the cheapest it is, right? So there's that. Okay, so in terms of how I think Bitcoin in the alt season is going to play out, okay, I think Bitcoin is likely going to continue pushing to all-time highs probably until about March or April of next year. Okay. And then, well, okay, maybe February to April of next year. Bitcoin likely probably going to top out. If it does, if we have a mid-cycle correction somewhere between February to April of next year, then it kind of chops sideways. Then as it's chopping sideways, then ETH and altcoins will take over. We'll get the alt season that will reflect in the Bitcoin dominance. Maybe we get a mid-cycle dump, a summer lull, so to speak. And then right around July, August timeframe, Bitcoin rips up for a second time for the second half of the bull run. All coins go back up with it, and then we have our final top sometime in November and December, sometime around there of next year. There's an alternative here where it's possible that Bitcoin just kind of has a more 2017-like run, where it just kind of slowly goes up over time. And again, I'll show you guys on the charts real quick what I mean by this. This could happen. This would play more into the kind of spot ETF to gold ETF comparison, right? What did the gold ETF do? The first one, or the price of gold, when the first spot ETF for gold got approved, it went up for about 7 years straight. So in 2017, Bitcoin, pretty much, it had its bottom, but it went up for over 2 years, almost 2.5 years. This thing went up, and it went up slowly and consistently over time. That could happen, and the altcoins could go up with it. That would be breaking the cycle timing, though. If it went up for 2.5 years straight, that would be breaking the cycle timing, because I mean, again, even if we were to say, hey, this right here is basically the equivalent of what we saw for the 6-month pullback that we just had recently, which again, it wasn't 6 months, it was only a couple of months. I mean, the reality is this was 2.5 years of bull run. Okay. I mean, it's possible this could be more like 2017, and Bitcoin and the altcoins could just steadily grind up for the next 14 months. It's hard to say exactly which one is going to play out, or maybe Bitcoin just goes up through 2026 because the spot ETFs kind of have the same effect as, or the Bitcoin ETFs have the same effect as the gold ETFs. But like I said before, we got to get to the end of 2025 and into 2026 first, see what Bitcoin does in order to confirm that. I don't want to speak to that right now. In my opinion, we're probably going to get more like 2021, okay? I think Bitcoin's going to rocket to whatever its all-time high is going to be. We're going to get, altcoins will have their day in the sunlight, and then the trust will probably go with it, probably sometime Q1 next year. So Bitcoin this quarter, and then next quarter, and then sometime next quarter, the alt season happens. Then we kind of get a dump in between, I'd say somewhere around maybe middle Q2, middle Q3, and then boom, pop off again like in 2021. In my opinion, that's the most likely scenario as of right now. So yeah, I think Bitcoin still steals the spotlight, in my opinion, probably until February of next year. And then we, it'll chop sideways or whatever at the top like it usually does. And then we get the all season. All right. So I hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.